The first snow of December had just begun to fall when Richard Hale, a man whose name was whispered across Wall Street, sat alone in his sprawling mansion. The fire roared in the marble fireplace, but he felt none of its warmth. He was one of the richest men in America, a billionaire CEO, owner of Hale Industries, admired and envied across the globe. Yet tonight, his silence echoed louder than any applause he had ever received. Richard had everything money could buy: private jets, luxury cars, a mansion that stretched like a palace. But his life was as empty as the whiskey glass in his hand. His wife had left years ago, calling him married to money, not to me. His son, now in college, barely called anymore. Success had cost him love, family, and peace. Outside, the snowstorm grew heavier. He was about to head upstairs when the doorbell rang. At first, he frowned. Who could possibly be at his doorstep in this weather? Reluctantly, he pulled the door open, and there she was. A little girl, no more than 7, stood shivering in the snow. Her coat was too thin, her shoes soaked, her face red from the biting cold. She clutched a ragged backpack to her chest, and then, with a trembling voice, she looked up at him and whispered words that pierced his heart deeper than any deal or loss ever had. "Mr. Broken Bar, can I sleep in your garage tonight?" Chapter 1. The Stranger at the Door. Richard Frouse, a billionaire worth billions of dollars, a broken bar and a little girl was asking for shelter in his garage. He cleared his throat. "Where are your parents? Where do you live?" The girl shook her head. "I don't know where my mom is. She said she'd be back, but she didn't come. I was scared. It's too cold out there." Her voice cracked as she added, "I don't need much. I promise I'll be quiet. Just a garage, a broken bar, please." Richard's mansion had 20 bedrooms, each with silk sheets and heated floors. Yet this little girl, fragile as glass, thought she only deserved space in his garage. Something inside him twisted. "Come inside," he said quickly, before the snow swallowed her. She hesitated, then stepped in. The warmth of the house made her shiver harder, her body finally realizing how cold she had been. Richard knelt down, noticing her torn gloves. "What's your name?" "Leela," she whispered. Chapter 2. A World of Contrast. Richard led her to the living room. The grand chandelier sparkled above them, the Persian rugs muffling their steps. Leela's eyes widened at the towering Christmas tree, decorated with ornaments that cost more than most people earned in a year. "Wow," she breathed. "It looks like a castle." Richard felt embarrassed. To him, the house had always felt hollow, a monument to his ego. But in her eyes, it was magic. He brought her hot chocolate and watched as she wrapped her tiny fingers around the cup, drinking eagerly. "Where do you live, Leela?" he asked softly. "Nowhere, I think," she said. "Sometimes in a car, sometimes in a shelter. My mom says we're just waiting for things to get better. But to broken bar, she's been gone since yesterday." Her words were matter of fact, as though hardship was normal. Richard's throat tightened. This little girl had no security, no comfort, no father to protect her. She had learned to survive in ways no child should. And for the first time in years, Richard felt something unfamiliar: guilt. Chapter 3. The Past That Haunts. That night, after giving Leela a guest room, Richard sat alone, staring at the snow. Memories crashed in. He had grown up poor himself as the son of a struggling factory worker. He remembered shivering through winters when the heater broke, watching his mother skip meals so he could eat. He had sworn to escape that life, and he had. But in chasing wealth, he had become the very man his younger self despised: a cold, unreachable, blind to suffering. Now, fate had placed Leela on his doorstep. Was this a broken bar a second chance? Chapter 4. The days after. The next morning, Richard made pancakes, burned, but edible. Leela laughed at his attempt, a sound so pure it echoed through the empty halls like music. Over the next few days, she stayed with him while he tried to locate her mother. He called shelters, hospitals, even the police. No one had information. Meanwhile, Leela's presence began to change him. She drew pictures with crayons on his $1 million dining table. She insisted on decorating the Christmas tree properly, moving his boring golden ornaments and replacing them with paper snowflakes she cut herself. "You can't just buy Christmas," she told him. "You have to make it." Richard found himself smiling genuinely for the first time in years. Chapter 5. The twist. One evening, Richard's assistant, Claire, stormed in. "Richard, the board is furious. You've cancelled 3 meetings this week. The investors are demanding answers." Normally, Richard would have snapped, demanded numbers, barked orders. But before he could speak, Leela peeked out from behind the door, holding the gingerbread house they had been building. Claire blinked. "Is that a broken bar child?" Richard felt an odd pride. "Yes, her name is Leela. She's staying with me." Claire's jaw dropped. Richard Hale, the ruthless billionaire, is babysitting? He laughed. "Not babysitting, learning." That night, Claire pulled him aside. "Richard, a broken bar? Do you realize what you're doing? This could ruin your reputation. Or a broken bar, it could save you." Her words lingered. Chapter 6. The search for her mother. Richard finally tracked down Leela's mother, Anna, a young woman working 2 jobs, exhausted, struggling, ashamed. She had left Leela in temporary care while rushing between shifts, only to collapse from overwork at the hospital. When Richard met her, Anna's first words were, "Please don't take her away. I know I failed, but I love her." Richard saw the desperation in her eyes. She was not careless, just crushed by poverty. For the first time, he didn't see numbers or deals, he saw humanity. Chapter 7. The Decision. Christmas Eve arrived. Richard invited Anna and Leela to his home. Together, they shared dinner, not the catered kind, but one Richard helped cook himself. Afterward, he stood up, clearing his throat. "I spent my life chasing wealth, but this little girl reminded me what I lost: a kindness, family, joy. Starting tomorrow, I'm launching a new foundation of homes for struggling families. No child should ever ask to sleep in a garage." Anna gasped. Leela's eyes sparkled. "See, Mr. Richard, you can make Christmas." Richard smiled, tears in his eyes. Chapter 8. The Climax. The foundation launched nationwide. Richard dedicated billions not for profit, but for humanity. Families received housing, mothers got childcare support, children went to schools with warm meals and books. At every press conference, when asked what inspired him, Richard gave the same answer. "A 7-year-old girl knocked on my door and asked if she could sleep in my garage. That night, I realized money is useless if it can't keep a child warm." Chapter 9. The New Beginning. Years later, Leela grew up to be a bright young woman. Richard stayed in her life via not as a father replacing her own, but as a mentor and protector. He attended her school plays, helped with her college applications, and cheered her victories. And every Christmas, they shared the same tradition: hot chocolate, paper snowflakes, and the memory of the night everything changed.